Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you all for being here, and we will also want to recognize the TBA for hosting us here today too. I know a number of you I were talking to about this, and we were delighted a couple of weeks ago to sponsor, the awards for best places to work, and y'all were saying, well, why are y'all doing that? And I said, well, look, we won the award so many times we can't participate anymore. So now that is a joke. Okay, I'm just kidding. All right. I go to that old philosopher, Yogi Berra, when I come, and Yogi said the future just ain't what it used to be, and he was pretty right on that stuff. When I get to thinking about something I just love to talk about, it's brand and culture. And so today, I guess y'all came to the same conclusion probably that we did, that if you're going to do well and be successful, you need to do as much as you can to create a really great place to come to work. And I think Terry and I were very lucky when both of us started, even 16 years ago. And it's pretty cool. Think 16 years ago that Pinnacle started. About 10 years ago, Avenue started. Today, we're the 50th largest bank in the country, which is pretty cool. As Terry likes to say, it's pretty cool, okay? If you think that talking about culture and brand is maybe a little soft and it's not important, it is the key to being successful. Brand and culture are the new drivers of this economy. And a lot of people hadn't quite gotten there yet. So y'all are obviously interested in how you can make a great place to work for yourself and your employees. And that was it starts really with the vision, and then it's about the values that you have, and then it's about execution, right? So you can have all this other stuff, but if you really want to execute, you really have to execute well. So how do you do that? And that's what we're going to talk about today. And the how seems real simple, to have a vision. It's really interesting now for me to sit down with Terry and be a partner. We competed against each other for about 35 years. We were in Leadership Nashville together, got to know each other there. That was 1991 or 92, somewhere back there, Terry. And so, we both had the same idea of being Nashville's bank. Now think about how simple that is. When Terry started, he wanted to be, Nashville's bank. Then it became Middle Tennessee. When we started, we wanted to be Nashville's bank. We talked a little more about Signature Bank, but it meant the same thing. But it was really unique for me to see just how close all the things that we were doing at Avenue were to where Pinnacle was. And it's so exciting for us because we walk into a culture, while change is difficult no matter what you do, that the cultures really can blend. And I kept talking to our folks about culture has to have time to mature. We had a personality when we started, and we didn't really say, oh, this is the culture. So what we did was we just, kind of worked together over a period of time, and a couple years in, we said our personality has turned into a culture. And that means that's those traditions, that's the things that matter, and then you develop your values. So the values become extremely important because for this to be successful in any organization, leadership has to live the values. And so, you can choose whatever you want to. There's 100, 200 words you might pick as values. At Pinnacle, we have the very similar values as you might think, but the integrity, fairness, partnership, learning, results, discipline. Those are the kinds of things that we value at Pinnacle. And it's one of those things to say you value it, but what do you do to make people accountable for that, right? Terry's going to tell you a good bit about how we go about doing those things and how it's integrated into our company. There are, though, things that you can stumble with. I call them culture killers out there, and that is when you don't have a clear vision. And I had somebody that several years back, they said, what's the vision? I was working for one of the big banks out of town, and I gave them this picture I thought was pretty good, and they looked at me and said, Ron, that's not a vision. I said, what? Said it's just that doesn't paint the picture. So, I went from trying to be at the corporate side doing all these things to a very simple thing, just like Terry did when he had that blank sheet of paper in front of him and he could create anything he wanted to do. And I said, it's very simple. We want to be Nashville's bank. Now today we want to be the best. Well, actually, Pinnacle has said forever they want to be the best financial services company and the best place to work. And in every category, we've been very fortunate to be recognized as the best place to work. So if you think this is not important, you can't get to $50 billion without being there. And so one is no clear vision. Another one of these killers is if you the company decisions that you make and the strategies that you employ don't reflect those values. So, it can kind of get a little gray area in there. And then if your people are not engaged, and what you'll hear, these are the things to watch for as you're listening to Terry. Because those three are really one more too. The leadership team does not reflect the values. Okay, so those four things, kind of look at how those things are embodied in what we hold our leadership accountable for. And that this is not rocket science. This is just good old blocking and tackling, simple, caring about your customers, and creating and redefining the experience that you have at a bank. Terry was way early in this process, and it's been fun to watch how this has all come together. We've now almost been together a year, which is hard to believe. I think January 28th of 16 is when we announced the deal, and now we closed July 1st of last year on the financial side of it. We've done the integrations, and I can't tell, I've been through a number of mergers, about 5 or 6 of them, and this has gone the best that I've ever witnessed. So it's really my honor and pleasure to have a CEO that we work with that embraces culture and brand, and I'm pleased to introduce our President and CEO, Terry Turner, and my good friend. So, please go.
Thank you, man. Well, we're glad that you're here. I've been asked a number of times here, I guess, out when we're drinking coffee, somebody said, well, Terry, why do you guys do this? What are you trying to do? And so the answer to that question is, Ron was right. We've had a vision from the start of this company that we were going to build a great place to work, that we were going to be the best financial services firm. Those two things are tied together. It's hard to be the best without being the best place to work. And so we've cared about it. We have learned a lot as we've gone down through the process. And so it's our intent to be helpful to businesses that have a heart or desire to build a great place to work. And so that's the reason that we continue to be involved in it. I think Ron hit on a couple of key points. One is, you likely have not seen, but we had a press release that went across the wire before the markets opened this morning that we closed our transaction with the Bank of North Carolina, which gives us access to 3 more states, North, South Carolina, and Virginia. So that's an exciting thing for us, really a fabulous thing. Ron hit at some of the growth that we've encountered today, a $20 billion asset company, $5 billion market cap, all those things. Again, I don't want to say that to pound my chest or our collective chest. I really just want to get a picture for you that there was a time that there were 3 people sitting around a desk trying to figure out what we were going to do. And there was a time that we were trying to raise capital, and there was a time when we didn't have any employees and we didn't have a bank charter, and all those kinds of things. And so, you know, it starts very simplistically. And I think, again, in the conversations out here, I've tried to make this point. We have been recognized over and over as a great place to work. We still talk about in our company some of the slides. I see Habib out here who helped us in our branding early on. We took Habib a bunch of stuff that said, hey, this is what we're trying to build. And one of the things on that list was that we were going to build a world-class place to work. That was in the initial brainstorming when we started. And so the thing I want you to get is, yeah, we did build a great place to work, and I'm around a lot of people who have built great places to work. I have a chance to talk to a lot of them and so forth, but none of them ever said, look at that, man, we turned out to be a great place to work. And it doesn't happen like that. It happens because somebody says, hey, we're going to be a great place to work. So what are the things that we have to do in order to bring that about? And are we going to be dogged about it all the time? I mean, Ron's points are correct. All those chinks, all the things that interrupt your ability to do that are when you break down on what that vision is and people lose trust and those kinds of things. All that stuff undermines your ability to win. I guess, I've hit at some of the growth and success that the company's had. All along the way, every major milestone that we've hit, everybody will sort of say, okay, Terry, well, what's next? You know, what's next? Are you done? You going to sell the company? I think, come on, man, we're trying to build a big business here. You know, we got a great opportunity. We got something that works. We're trying to build a great business here. And so if you think about the evolution of the company, as I mentioned, there was a time there were three of us trying to figure it out. By the time we got our bank charter, raised the capital, and got the doors open, we had 34 people, one office in downtown Nashville, believing we were going to build Nashville's bank. And so here this morning, you know, we're sitting here looking at $20 billion in assets with 125 offices scattered across 4 states. That's a lot of change. That's a lot of change. And so I believe we got a lot of associates here. I believe most of our associates will say, hey, that's one thing we're good at is change. You know, we're good at building the next thing. We're good at change. But here's the thing I hope you can get, because this is what I'm more proud of. We're good at knowing what not to change. We're good at knowing what not to change, and that's more important than knowing what to do to change. Because there's an unchangeable core that we've agreed to in this company that we're not changing. And our company's different, and it feels there's a lot of stuff that's different about our company, but there's some things that I promise you are nearly identical to what they were opening day when we started the business. Let me just sort of get this in perspective for you. Number one, when we started, we said we're going to be an urban community bank. An urban community bank. And so what that meant to us? What that meant was we were going to operate in urban markets, large, high-growth urban markets, but we were going to compete with a community bank level of service, a higher level of service, a distinctive level of service that's built on being able to serve and advise clients. That was the basis for competition. That's what we set out to build. And so what really propelled us at that time was about 6 things that are really essential to who we are. Ron used the word personality, the personality that we have in this company. One was what the mission and vision of the company is. That's one of the unchangeable core things. It's never changed except this exception. The vision that we started with opening day, we had 34 people sit around and covenant together about what is it we're going to build. What are we setting out to do here? And what we said was we're going to build the best financial services firm and the best place to work in Nashville. That's what we set out to do. That's what we were going to do. So what's happened? What's changed in that? The only thing that's changed on that is 2006, we expanded that from Nashville to Middle Tennessee. 2007, we expanded from Middle Tennessee to Tennessee. And 2016, we went from Tennessee to the Southeast. That's the only thing that's changed. Just the geographic footprint's all that's changed. We're still trying to be the best financial services firm, best place to work in the Southeast. And when I say that, that's not a lip service thing. We got detailed measures for how do we measure that. How do I know that we're the best financial service firm? And it has to do with the measurements that we have about what we're doing for our associates, the measures that we have about what we're doing for our clients, the measures that we have about what we're doing for our communities, and the measures that we have about what we're doing for our shareholders. And we measure them up, and we benchmark, and we chase. We haven't always been the best on every one of those measures, but where we're off, we chase it some more. So this mission and vision is constant, and we haven't changed it. We're not going to change it. We might expand our footprint, but I promise you, when they carry me out feet first, we're still going to be trying to be the best financial service firm, best place to work in some geography. That's what we'll be doing. So that's an unchangeable thing at the core. Another thing, and Ron hit on this, is values. He gave you a list. That group of 34 people when we started, and again, this wasn't Terry's set of values, this was a group of 34 covenanted together. What are we going to build? What are we going to do? We agreed on 6 values. Those things hadn't changed. The definition of them hadn't changed. The importance of them hadn't changed. It's not something we hang on a banner. I doubt you can find a banner in our company somewhere that has it. But most people can tell you what the values of the company are, because it's how we evaluate our people. It's not a lip service thing where it's how we evaluate. It's how you get ahead in our company is to live out those values. The only thing that's changed, we added one more. When we went through the recession, we decided we could do better with more discipline, and so that became a 7th value that we added to it. But again, that core hadn't moved or changed, and I promise you it's not going to change. We're holding those values wherever we go, whatever we do, whatever changes we do make. We're not letting go of those values. The third thing is the basis for competition. I mentioned a minute ago we set out to be an urban community bank. This idea of being a community bank has to do with having a distinctive service level and being able to give better advice than what our competitors do. Some of you know our company, some of you don't, but I've got compelling research that says we do this. Research that we do, independent third-party research, that would confirm that we have burned that into our clients and earned that reputation. There's a company called Greenwich Research who does research for all the top 50 banks in the United States, does research for 700 other banks, does research in every MSA in the country, been doing it for decades. Out of that group of 750 that they do research for, they've determined that only 18 have developed a real brand. In other words, when they do their research with clients of all these banks, the banks are just blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying? They're just all the same, except for 18 have developed a brand, and we're one of them, and it has to do with our ease of doing business, the sort of service that we give, the advisory capabilities that we have, and specifically being trustworthy. And so, again, that's something that's not changing. We're not moving from that. We're going to always compete based on service and advice. We're not going to compete based on price. We're not going to compete based on products. We're not going to compete based on innovation. Not that there's anything wrong with them. Some of you may compete on those, and those are a legitimate and good way to compete. It's just not who we are. It's not what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do is win based on service and advice. So that basis for competition is a core, unchangeable thing. We have really unusual hiring practices. I tell people all the time, man, the goal here is to fill our company up with good people. Everything else is easy. Just fill the company up with good people. We got very distinctive hiring practices. I won't rattle down through all of them now, but we don't hire off resumes. Generally, people circulating resumes are unhappy or unsuccessful where they are. I'd rather have somebody that's happy and successful. It's okay if I have to chase them, Lee, for a long time. I have to chase them a long time sometimes to get them to cross over, but that's okay. We're going to chase good people and fill our company up with good people and do it that way, not just hiring people who either don't have a job or don't like the job they've got. So again, pretty distinctive hiring practices. We're not changing that. It has to do with how we deliver great service, how we deliver great advice. It has to do with retention of associates, all those kinds of things. It's all integrated together, but we're not changing the hiring practices of the company. We have a really unusual philosophy, I think, about we all win together and lose together. That's not so hard when there are 3 of you. It's not really all that hard when there are 30 of you. It gets a little harder when there are 2,000 of you scattered across 4 states, but that is the philosophy, and we're not changing it. We got incentives. 100% of the people in our company get annual cash incentives. 100% of the people have equity in this company. The value of the equity that's been granted to about 1,200 associates at Pinnacle is $330 million. Y'all just sitting there. I'm from Atlanta. That's a lot of money, you know what I mean? 330 million to 1,200 people, that's a lot. And but so in that we all win and lose together. And I don't make any money, I don't make any incentive if Nicole doesn't make any incentive, and she doesn't make any if I don't. Man, we're all riding together here. And a lot of people say, oh, Terry, that won't work. And I'm like, yeah, well, I probably won't, but we're going to stick with it, you know. And so again, this win together, lose together is really important. I just digress real quickly to say my wife used to shop some at a well-known ladies' clothing store here in Nashville, where the sales associates there are on commission. And they'll claw your eyeballs out, you know, and so, you know, they would fight with each other. No, she's mine. No, I saw her first. No, I dealt with her last time. And my wife said, I quit. I'm not going back in there. She hadn't been in there in years. And based on my review of the debits on my account, that cost them a lot of money. Yeah. Yeah, right. That's the one I'm glad about, you know. But I'm serious. That's not a win together, lose together. It's I win at your expense. You win at my expense, and so now we're going to do this. And it's an awful experience. Now nobody wins. And so again, this company's built on we're going to all win together and lose together. The whole thing's bet on we hit our numbers as a company. Everybody gets their money. We miss our numbers as a company. Nobody gets any, and we've been in both boats. We paid out 125% of target, more than what we agreed we were going to pay out. We paid out zero to everybody because we all win together and we all lose together. It's an important thing. The last one's associate engagement. We are dogged about engaging our associates. And we hold our leaders accountable for engaging their associates. I believe there's no better barometer of your impact as a leader of people than how well you engage the people that work for you. Are they engaged or not? If they're not, I mean, we tend to say, oh, well, there's something wrong with them. No, it's something wrong with you. There's a great book. Man, I've lost the name of the book right now. Extreme Ownership is the name of the book. And I won't go through all of it, but the idea here is there was this is a SEAL, Special Forces training deal. Got these groups traveling together. They got to go through all these difficult exercises where you swim and run and raft and do all these things. And this group was losing all the time, and one group was winning all the time. And the group that was losing all the time, man, that leader was just dogging them and working on them and, you know, trying to get them to do better and all those kinds of things. And so the Navy, in this Navy SEAL program, decided, hey, why don't we let's don't change anything except for one thing. Let's just swap the leaders. You know what happened? The guy that was leading that group that was winning all of them, they put him over here. First time out of the gate, they won all of them. It wasn't about all the people, it was about the leader. And so, again, if you don't like the engagement at your place, look in the mirror. I promise you it's about leadership. It's not about them, it's about us as leaders there. So anyway, I've rambled through 6 things that are our unchangeable core. And as we've grown and changed and so forth, man, we're changing lots of stuff, man. We're swapping systems, we're adding products, we're changing pricing, man. You can talk to some of the associates in this company. It's a fast moving thing here. You know, we're changing a lot of stuff, but we're not changing those 6 things because we've covenanted together. We're going to stick with those. I rambled through all that because I hope you'll get down to what's your unchangeable core? As Ron alluded to it, it's really not rocket science. It's not hard. It's not like you got to go away for 8 days on a retreat to figure it out. I mean, really, if you would take 5 minutes there and say, okay, well, what are our values here? What do I love about this company? What do our associates love about this company? What makes us distinctive to the clients that we have? What's our uniqueness in this world? There you go. All right, y'all ready to go home? That's it. No, I'm serious. It's not a long proposition. Take 15, 20 minutes, but you ought to know what your unchangeable core is, and you ought to get committed to saying, if that's it, if that's what drives the success in this business, I can consider everything, but I can't change those things. I'll have to hold on to those as we go. I think that's really critical. One last admonition on that front, and that is, just because you figure it out won't help very much. Be better than not figuring it out. But what you got to do is get it inculcated where everybody else in your business gets it, and everybody else is working on it, and everybody else believes that that's the covenant, that we're really going to do that, that they can trust you to do that, and you can trust them to do that. And you'll have to take, it varies based on the company size, personality, communication strengths and weaknesses, but whatever it is, you'll have to figure out some way to get whatever that unchangeable core is inculcated where people believe it and trust you that that's the way it's going to be. And so, like everything else in life, it starts with a commitment on the front end that you're not going to change and you're not going to give up on those things. Change whatever else you want to change, but don't change the core that makes you successful.
I didn't take